Good afternoon, friends, and thank you very much for being here this afternoon. We haven't met in this format for some time. Lest you think that we've abandoned this format, I just thought we'll jog your memory and tell you that no, it still exists. I have 3 announcements to make, which I will make in terms of sequence of the dates on which these events are going to take place, following which the floor is open for you to ask any questions. The first announcement that I have to make is about the travel of the External Affairs Minister, Mr. Salman Khurshid, to Perth. Mr. Khurshid left last night. He will be participating in the IOR-ARC, that is the Indian Ocean Region Association for Regional Cooperation meeting. This is in Perth. As many of you perhaps are aware, we were the chair of this organization for 2 years, and he will hand over the baton to Australia, who will be the chair from November 1st onwards. Indonesia will take over as the vice chair from Australia. Now, this is a 20-member organization which has countries of the Indian Ocean littoral who are likely to discuss a range of issues, and I'll try and summarize for you some of those issues. I understand that one of the things on the agenda is the name of this organization. As those of you are aware, last year there was an initiative to try and shorten the name, and this is on the agenda. Other issues are cooperation with the UN and specialized agencies. How should we engage dialogue partners more? The secretariat of the organization and mechanisms and ways to strengthen it, and also an initiative that we lay great store on, and that is the university mobility in the Indian Ocean region universities. We expect that at the conclusion of this meeting in Perth, there will be, of course, the usual communique, and also Australia is proposing a Perth declaration of Perth principles for the peaceful and sustainable use of the Indian Ocean and its resources. So we look forward to that meeting on the 1st, and the outcome, of course, will be shared with you. The second announcement that I have to make is about the convening of the 5th Heads of Mission Conference of all Indian Heads of Mission abroad. This is an annual feature. Usually it is held in August. This time it's proposed to be held in November. It will be held from the 4th to the 7th of November. We expect approximately 120 of Indian ambassadors and high commissioners to various countries to converge in Delhi for this annual feature. And this year we have a theme for this conference, and that is, the theme is India's place in a changing world order. Where do we see ourselves? What do we wish to achieve? So much of the discussion is going to be focused on this theme. As is usual, the heads of mission will interact with the president, the vice president, the prime minister will address them. They will also be addressed by the external affairs minister, the minister for commerce, and the national security advisor. Interestingly, this year, in addition to the usual focus on neighbors and South Asia, the effort is also to focus in a very specific regional manner, and therefore we are having with CII and FICCI roundtables focused on different regions. These will be interaction between the heads of missions from various regions with leading Indian businessmen, etc., who have interest in those regions. Also, within the conference itself, specific sessions are devoted to Africa, to Latin America, to Central Asia, to Europe, etc. And in addition, there will also be sessions devoted to consular and passport issues, which are assuming increasing importance. Finally, Mr. Sam Pedroda will address the ambassadors on innovations and instruments of foreign policy. Innovations as instruments of foreign policy. This is again a new venture that we are endeavoring. The third announcement that I have is the visit of the Prime Minister of Kuwait. At the invitation of Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh, His Highness Sheikh Jaber Al Mubarak Al Hamad Al Sabah, the Prime Minister of Kuwait, will be visiting India from the 7th to the 9th of November. Now, this is the first visit of a head of government from Kuwait since they bifurcated the Crown Prince from the head of government. The last visit of a head of government from India to Kuwait was in 1981 when Prime Minister Indira Gandhi visited Kuwait. Of course, we've had other high-level visits both from India to Kuwait as well as from Kuwait to India. Perhaps you are aware that Kuwait is amongst our largest suppliers of oil. They export something, we import rather, something in the vicinity of 10 to 12% of our oil imports. The total bilateral trade between Kuwait and India is in the vicinity of $17 billion, of which 15 billion is oil. Our exports to Kuwait are in the vicinity of a little above $1 billion. We have a very large Indian community in Kuwait. It is the largest expatriate community in Kuwait, and it is in the vicinity of 700,000. So we expect a full agenda between the visiting Prime Minister as well as our Prime Minister, and we will separately in due course providing you a detailed briefing on that. That's about what I have in terms of formal announcements. So as is usual, I will open the floor for any questions that you may have, on the announcements that I make, and after that on anything else that you may like to ask. So, and please remember, always, one question per person. If you ask two, I get the choice of the answer. I'm ready now to answer. Just can you speak into the mic?
Which sessions or any other things open for media for this ambassadors, and those are coming 120?
This is usually in the context of brainstorming, and therefore none of the sessions are open. These are closed sessions where they exchange forthrightly viewpoints, and we have not in the past followed a practice of making them publicly available or open for the media, and that practice will continue. Pardon? Just hold on. I think we've all forgotten that there are mics. Yes.
What I'm asking is, even the inauguration is also not open to the media?
If
inauguration.
Yes, even that. However, if there are elements which would need to be highlighted, we will certainly, like in previous years, circulate to you the main points of any important issues which may be highlighted.
This was not my question. My question is actually...
Very impressive.
Could you give some hints? What would be the likely change in the name of the organization? Is it Indian Ocean Dialogue or something, any name being proposed by India?
No, I think you have a valid question, and there is no proposal by India on this. There was a proposal initiated by Australia last time, and this is to focus on a shorter name because they found that the total name, the way it is now structured along with the short form, is fairly long, and they are thinking of a concise name which perhaps will be encapsulated in 4 alphabets rather than the numbers now. and it will still have Indian Ocean region, but perhaps it will have one other alphabet. And you will know in a day's time.
Is the Prime Minister going to Colombo?
Yeah, we will answer those questions, I promise.
okay.
But first, I had said that we will respond to any questions about the announcements, and then certainly any other questions. And I do understand the question you asked is rather high on everybody's priority list. Anyone else on the questions related to, on the announcements related to the Indian Ocean Rim, related to the Heads of Mission Conference, or related to the visit of the Prime Minister of Kuwait? If there are none, then I see Mr. Venkat Narayan already raising his hand. Please.
Should I ask a question about none of these, are what?
Yeah, I mean, I understand you. There's nobody else who would like to ask question on these.
Okay.
So I presume, unless you want to ask,
No,
I will not deny you that right.
No, thanks very much. Very kind. This is about one of the reports in the papers today about the possibility of the Prime Minister going for a CHOGM conference in Colombo. Has a final decision been taken? What is the position? Thanks.
Yes, as I said, this is a question which is rather high priority, and perhaps what you are trying to find out right now is the level of Indian participation in the Commonwealth Heads of Governments meeting, which will be held in Colombo from the 15th of next month. I can confirm to you that a process has been set in motion to arrive at a decision on this matter. We are taking into consideration all aspects of our national interests, our foreign policy priorities, and our international obligations. I can also confirm to you that that process has not reached its culmination. There is still some way down the track on this. Once we reach once the process reaches its culmination, we will certainly share the outcome with you, and perhaps that's where we are on that issue. Yes. Just anyone else on this aspect, then I will go to anything else. Anyone else on this aspect? Yes, Vishal. Then we will come back to another question.
It's also been reported that the Chief Minister Vigneshwaran has written to the Prime Minister, inviting him to visit Jaffna. Is there that being
Yes, without, of course, divulging what is a privileged communication between the Chief Minister of the Northern Provincial Council of Sri Lanka and our Prime Minister, I can confirm to you, yes, he did receive a letter on the 28th of this month, late in the evening. Now, I will not get into the exact details of the letter, but again, I can inform you the letter basically indicates that he is grateful for Indian assistance in terms of ensuring that the elections were held and an elected body has taken place. He does inform that he has now assumed charge as, and he is grateful to India for that. He also, in the context of that letter, has invited the Prime Minister to visit Jaffna. This, of course, is an input into the decision-making process and will be considered with a variety of other factors. And right now, as I said, the process is underway, so I can't let on to anything further apart from the details that I have shared with you. Yes.
Related to Vishal's question, is it routine and usual for chief ministers of individual provinces in foreign countries to approach our Prime Minister directly and vice versa? Is it usual or is it accepted for ministers of individual states in India to approach presidents or prime ministers or heads of state in other countries?
The relationship between India and Sri Lanka should not be characterized as usual. It is a very strong relationship, it is a very close relationship, and it is a relationship where India has worked with Sri Lanka for a variety of issues, including the welfare of the people in the northern areas who have been adversely impacted. So let's not judge these things by the usual parameters of what you think is usual. Each relationship is unique, and our relationship with Sri Lanka is certainly unique, and therefore our interaction is also in a way which is distinct. And I think we should respect that distinctiveness, and that is a distinctiveness that is reflected in our foreign policy and our approach towards Sri Lanka. Yes, on. If it's on Sri Lanka, no. Then it is Dilip.
Yeah, sir, my question is regarding this Patna blast. मैं आपसे ये जानना चाहता हूँ कि हमारे पास जो इन्फॉर्मेशन है अकॉर्डिंग टू इंटेलिजेंस नोट, वो कहती है कि पटना ब्लास्ट आईएसआई ने फंड किया, रियाज भटकल को ये पूरा ऑपरेशन दिया गया था। जब हम पाकिस्तान से लगातार बातचीत कर रहे हैं, चाहे प्रधानमंत्री की बात हो या हमारे डिप्लोमेटिक लेवल पर, उसके बीच में इस तरह के धमाके, और ये चिंता का सवाल नहीं है विदेश मंत्रालय के लिहाज से?
देखिए दिलीप, जो आप कह रहे हैं, मुझे तो इस बात के बारे में जानकारी ही नहीं है। मैंने अभी जो हमारे अफसर हैं जो इन सब चीज़ों से डील करते हैं, उनसे बात की है, और अब तक ना हमें कोई ऐसी कोई चिट्ठी मिली है जो आप कह रहे हैं। तो ये हाइपोथेटिकल बातें तो हम जवाब नहीं दे सकते, बट आई कैन कन्फर्म टू यू कि अब तक हमें ऐसी कोई चिट्ठी नहीं मिली है। यस, राजीव।
Akbar, I'm not asking you whether there is a change in India's Pakistan policy. What I'm asking you is, are we seeing a new nuance in India's Pakistan policy, a new shift, sort of subtle shift, wherein, in view of these LOC flare-ups, will that be a correct thing to say that MEA has given completely free hand to MOD, and it'll be, so to say, defense ministry versus their forces or whatever, on as far as the LOC flare-up is concerned? And are we seeing any kind of forward movement diplomatically with Pakistan?
I think we need to go back to the last substantive diplomatic discussion between India and Pakistan, and that was the discussion between the two prime ministers in New York. And let me recall for you what was the common understanding as an outcome of that meeting. And the common understanding was that the precondition for a forward movement in the relationship, which both the prime ministers desire, is an improvement of the situation on the line of control. Now, that is a common understanding between our two countries, and that is what guides our diplomatic interaction with Pakistan. May I repeat again? The precondition for a forward movement in the relationship is an improvement of the situation on the line of control. That's it. Yes, sir.
Akbar, if you can throw some light on Dan Muzaner's recent visit to India.
Who?
Dan Muzaner, Bangladesh, US ambassador to Bangladesh, and what transpired in these meetings. We believe that he
Look, we are not in the business of telling, or if an ambassador of a certain country came to India and the ambassador met middle-level officials in South Block, this is not something which is unusual. We have regular interactions with various ambassadors from various countries who are in India, because many of those countries see India as a leading player in South Asia, and they would like to ascertain our views, and these are, as a matter of normal diplomatic discourse, shared with them. Yes, Maha.
The situation LOC has not reached a satisfactory situation. Will the EAM meet Sartaj Aziz when he comes to India?
Perhaps you are aware that we are going to have a major biennial event. This is called the Assam Ministers Conference. This is to be held on 11th and 12th of November. I understand that that Mr. Sartaj Aziz, who is the Pakistani National Security and Foreign Affairs Advisor to the Prime Minister, is also participating in this event. Based on this, we have received a request from them for a meeting with the External Affairs Minister on the margins of that event. And we intend to have that meeting based on that request. As host, India is meeting several countries whose foreign ministers are participating in that meeting, and including, I can confirm to you, that includes Mr. Sartaj Aziz. Yes, Parul.
Can you give us an update on, the visit of the Pak Judicial Commission, and also the condition of Indian prisoners in Pakistani jails?
Yeah.
The numbers, for instance, also.
Yes, the Judicial Commission, this is a normal feature between India and Pakistan. Despite the difficulties and differences that we've had, we view issues relating to prisoners as a humanitarian issue. And therefore, you would recollect, even when the composite dialogue earlier this year was suspended or hadn't been resumed at that stage, in April, an Indian Judicial Commission, 2 judges had visited along with the Pakistani judge, and this is a reciprocal visit. My understanding is that they will be submitting a report today. Now, as regards the question that you have raised about Indian, and this report will feature issues relating to Pakistani prisoners in Indian prisons. My also understanding is that as a follow-up to this, there would be another visit later on next year, early in the first half of next year, of Indian members to Pakistan to follow up on the situation of Indian prisoners in Pakistan. Now, as regards Indian prisoners in Pakistan, my understanding is that there are approximately 400 or so Indians who are in Pakistani prisons. These are approximately, I think, 214 civilian prisoners and 186 fishermen. Of these, by our count, almost 90 have completed their sentence and should be released, because according to the India-Pakistan bilateral agreement, all prisoners who've completed their sentence should be released within 1 month. So we would hope that this is abided by, because my understanding is that earlier this year, in some cases March, and in most other cases July, those 90 prisoners had completed their sentence terms, and therefore they are entitled to return to India, and we look forward to Pakistan releasing them and welcoming them back home. Yes, sir.
Can you please tell us what's India's take on the present political stalemate going on in Bangladesh?
I'm not here to comment on the internal affairs of any country, and therefore I'm not able to answer your question. Yes.
Would the deliberations of the Headswap commissions be confined to India's role in present international scenario, or they will discuss the repeated ceasefire violations by Pakistan and developments in China on our borders.
Yes, all the issues that you mentioned will be discussed, as will India's socio-economic realities be discussed, as will areas about our development agenda and what we are doing to implement the global development agenda be discussed. So this is a holistic approach. It's for 4 days, full all through the day, and we expect that all issues of interest to practitioners of Indian foreign policy will be covered in that discussions. There was somebody else this side. I missed out earlier when I asked Parul, there was you and there was somebody. Yes, Nainima?
Sir, what would be MEA's response to this Infosys visa fallout issue with the US government that they have agreed to pay the penalty? Any comments you would like to make?
I mean, this is a civil settlement between an Indian company and a US government agency. A civil settlement which, why would you like the government of India to comment when it is mutually agreed to between both the parties to arrive at that settlement? Yes. Ranjana?
So, would India be participating in that Indian Ocean Rim countries thing starting on Friday? The foreign ministers in Australia.
Yes, Ranjana, I think you missed out. That was
Yeah,
my
I
first
missed out.
announcement. But yes, Mr. Salman Khurshid, the External Affairs Minister, is right now on his way to Perth. This will be held on the 1st. We will participate actively and hand over the baton as chairman to Australia. And I have provided other details of those discussions as well as our approach to that. These are available, and I don't want to repeat since others have already taken them down, but I will pass them on to you. If there are no further, no, you've got your chance. Anyone else who hasn't asked? Thank you very much.